We're learning explosive new details about the largest college admission scam prosecuted by the Department of Justice ever. Prosecutors say 50 people are being charged nationwide in connection with a $25 million cheating scheme designed to get students into elite universities. Much of the indictment ties to William Rick Singer, the founder of a for-profit counseling and preparation business called The Key. He just arrived to a federal court in Boston. Officials say his scheme was twofold: helping students cheat on college entrance exams and paying bribes to get kids into schools with fake athletic credentials.
With respect to the SAT and ACT scheme, numerous parents paid Singer between $15,000 and $75,000 to have someone either take the exam for their child or to correct their child's answers afterward, all to achieve a sufficiently high pre-agreed score on those tests. Singer counseled parents to take their children to a therapist and get a letter saying that because of purported learning disabilities or other issues, the child needed additional time to complete the ACT or the SAT. Parents also paid Singer money that he then used to bribe coaches and administrators to designate their children as recruited athletes for various schools. Singer worked with the parents to fabricate impressive athletic profiles for their kids, including fake athletic credentials or honors, or fake participation in elite club teams. In many instances, Singer helped parents take staged photographs of their children engaged in particular sports.
Staged photographs of children engaged in particular sports, in some cases sports in which those children had never participated, let alone were competitive in or qualified to gain admission to a university on the basis of. 33 parents have been charged, including Hollywood stars Lori Loughlin and Felicity Huffman. It is important to note that except for a USC administrator who has been charged, the schools themselves are not believed to have been involved in the alleged scheme. Joining me now, NBC investigations reporter Tom Winter, who certainly got a break from what he normally does to be covering this one. NBC national security and justice reporter Julia Ainsley, and former federal prosecutor with expertise in racketeering, which is what some of these charges are, Barrett Berger. Thanks to all of you. Tom, let's just start with you, with two very notable figures involved in the case, these two actresses. What exactly are they alleged to have done?
All right, so both Felicity Huffman and Lori Loughlin are alleged to have been involved in the scheme to try to get their daughters into universities. And basically, in the case of Felicity Huffman, in one instance with one daughter, according to emails and the information contained in the court documents, Ali, she was able to work with one of the people that was also charged today to get her daughter to be able to take an SAT for an unlimited amount of time. And that can normally be done for very legitimate reasons, such as a learning disability or a particular medical condition. But in this case, Huffman coordinated allegedly with this company to make sure that her daughter went to the right location for the exam to be taken, with the right proctor, who was then bribed, according to the court documents. In a separate instance, and in this case, the government says she did not go through with this plan, but there was going to be another instance where she was going to do essentially the same scheme with her other daughter. And it's alleged that tens of thousands of dollars exchanged hands. For Lori Loughlin, a bit of a different story. It involved her daughter in USC. In that particular instance, Lori Loughlin and her husband, who's also charged in this, actually coordinated and got pictures of their daughter on an erg, so that they could.
Now, I didn't know what an erg is, so you know I didn't get into college on this.
Exactly.
So the erg is the rowing.
Is the rowing machine. Exactly. Right. It's a rowing machine. So they got pictures of her on an erg to say that she was the head of, or one of the people on crew with the LA Harbor Club. She had nothing to do with being on crew, according to the court documents. And so this was part of a package that essentially they put forward to USC to try to get her into that school. Now, what we've learned here, Ali, in the last couple of minutes is that Felicity Huffman is in federal custody in Los Angeles, according to the reporting from my colleague Andrew Blankstein. She should be presented in court later today. In addition to that, it's our understanding, and both Andy reporting and my reporting is from U.S. law enforcement officials who have been briefed on this. Lori Loughlin is not yet in federal custody. She's out of the country, but she'll be taken into custody at some later date. So as far as those two are concerned, that's the latest there.
Julia, take it a little broader here. There are coaches involved. There are guidance counselors. There are testing centers. Tom has just talked about the parents. There's even a fake charity involved.
That's right, Allie. This goes back to 2011, and there was even a Yale coach who cooperated with the FBI as part of this investigation because a lot of these coaches had to knowingly and fraudulently say that these students should be given preference in the admissions process because they had athletic potential to be on these teams, like that ERG test. There's a photo in there of a student who's going over a pole vault, a very high pole vault, something that would be very difficult to do if you were put up to the test with no pole vaulting abilities. That is not the student who is applying. That is a picture that this parent found off the internet. And they would essentially be paying people to be told to put together a portfolio like this on their athletic abilities. And then on the testing side, a number of people were involved as well. These testing centers. And then there were people who would come and take the test away from what your child had done, change answers to get a particular score. You could essentially say, look, I think a 1600 might be flagged. Let's come down a little bit and get something that could get into a school, but would be much higher than what these parents thought that their children could achieve on their own. A lot of money changing hands here. And again, it doesn't seem that the schools knew that they were being fooled when they got these higher test scores and when they were told that these students had athletic abilities. But a number of very elite schools are involved in this, from Stanford to Yale to Wake Forest. It runs the gamut. It's really amazing. I encourage people to go through these documents that Tom and I have been poring over all morning.
So there's a distinction. The schools are not charged. They're not involved in the scam. I think everybody in the country should take a moment to pause and realize that kids were admitted into schools. It's one thing if your test scores are faked, and the school may not have a way of knowing that. But on athletic ability, which is a measurable thing, there are kids who got into these schools, which of course brings coaches into the whole thing. Barrett, tell me how this is racketeering. I entirely get how it's fraud. Why are there racketeering allegations?
Yeah, so I think when most people think of racketeering, they probably think of the mob. And when the racketeering statute was passed in 1970, the purpose of it was really to infiltrate organized crime. But in the years since then, prosecutors have used the racketeering statute to really focus on instances where there's a pattern of criminal activity on behalf of an enterprise. And it's that pattern that's probably the key here and why this became a racketeering indictment. So this is not just a one-off
pattern,
crime.
Something that can be replicated.
Exactly.
Something that feels a little more like industry than a one-off.
Exactly. And it's a good opportunity. It's a great tool for prosecutors to charge both state and federal crimes together. So the crime of racketeering itself is a federal crime, but these predicates, the underlying criminal acts, can be, state crimes that would be difficult for federal prosecutors to otherwise charge. So this is a way of bringing together a variety of discrete crimes, putting them all under the umbrella of this racketeering enterprise, because everyone is sort of focused on working for the same criminal group here.
Tom, William Rick Singer, what do we know about him?
What we know about him is that he has a plea agreement with the government. We just saw him, as you pointed out before, entering federal court in Massachusetts. We know that he has a plea agreement, and at this point, we expect to hear a little bit more as far as his role in this. He's somebody who, looking at the court documents, we're still going through them. He might be one of the people who is cooperating in this. We know that one of the cooperating witnesses actually has an obstruction of justice charge against them because once they started cooperating with the government, they took some time to tip off some of the people involved that there was an investigation. So we have that to contend with.
People learned at this point?
Yeah.
We've taught nothing about legality for the last 2 years.
Once you're cooperating, chances are they're going to find out if you're deciding to tip people off about the case. I think one of the things that so rankled law enforcement here is that they look at this and they say, these would be spots at these schools that other people that weren't paying bribes, that weren't involved in illegal donations, weren't part of this racketeering conspiracy, that they would have otherwise been able to get into really terrific schools or really terrific athletic programs. I mean, you have the head coach of Yale's women's soccer program tied up in this. You have other prominent NCAA Division I coaches that are tied up in this. And this, of course, follows on the heels of another case that was prosecuted by federal prosecutors here in New York involving men's college basketball. So there's certainly a bit of a stink around NCAA programs and some of these high-profile schools right now.
Rudy, as we're looking at the list of the 50 people charged, I don't understand this, but some are charged by information, some are charged by indictment, and some are charged by complaint. Is that relevant?
Yes and no. So it's kind of some, in the weeds legal jargon there. So generally, if somebody is cooperating, it's likely that they would be charged by information, which is really the same as an indictment, but the person agrees that they're not going to force the prosecutors to go to the grand jury.
I see.
So it tends to be a good tip-off that somebody is cooperating if they've been charged by indictment. It's by no
But they're all charged. All these 50 people are charged.
Exactly. There's really no difference at this point between being charged by a complaint or indictment.
And these are all criminal charges.
They're all criminal charges, and they all have pretty serious penalties. I mean, if you're charged with racketeering, that can face up to 20 years in jail. So these crimes are no joke.
Hey, MSNBC fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there and click on any of the videos here to watch the latest interviews and highlights. You can get more MSNBC for free every day with our newsletters. Just visit msnbc.com/newsletters to sign up now.